There is a quiet kind of strength that the world rarely celebrates. It does not announce itself. It does not compete for attention. It does not stand beneath bright lights, hoping to be understood. Instead, it grows where few people think to look, in silence, in patience, and in the sacred decision to keep certain parts of yourself untouched by the hands of strangers. Somewhere along the journey, many of us were taught that being seen meant being valued, that telling everyone our dreams, our wounds, our victories, and our disappointments would somehow make us more connected. Yet time has whispered another lesson, one spoken softly through broken trust, careless words, and the ache of misplaced confidence. Not every ear that listens carries compassion. Not every smile hides goodwill. Some people gather your stories not to honor them, but to measure your weaknesses, to compare your blessings, or to find the places where your spirit bends. There is a remarkable difference between being open and being exposed. One nourishes relationships built on trust. The other leaves your soul standing in the cold, waiting for kindness that may never arrive. Every part of your life carries a certain kind of energy, and the moment it is released into the world, it no longer belongs entirely to you. It becomes something others can interpret, criticize, envy, or misunderstand. What begins as a simple conversation can become tomorrow's gossip. What feels like an innocent confession can quietly become someone else's advantage. The strongest trees do not spend their days proving they have deep roots. They simply continue growing. Rivers do not stop their journey to explain every turn they make. They keep flowing toward the ocean with unwavering purpose. In much the same way, your life does not require constant explanation to possess meaning. Your dreams become no more valuable because they are announced. Your healing becomes no more complete because it is displayed. Some of the greatest transformations happen in places where applause cannot reach. There is wisdom in allowing your life to unfold without inviting the opinions of those who have never carried your burdens. There is peace in protecting what is still becoming. Seeds grow best beneath the soil, hidden from the noise above. If they were forced into the light before their time, they would never become forests. Your purpose deserves that same protection. Your joy deserves that same shelter. Your future deserves that same quiet faith. So, today, consider the possibility that your silence is not emptiness, but strength, that your privacy is not fear, but wisdom, that the most powerful chapter of your story may be the one you choose not to explain, but simply to live. There is an invisible kind of wealth that no bank can measure and no crowd can fully recognize. It is the wealth of a peaceful mind, an undisturbed spirit, and a life that is not constantly exposed to the opinions of others. Many people believe that power comes from being noticed, from speaking often, and from allowing everyone a front row seat to their personal journey. Yet true power has always lived in the spaces that remain protected. It grows quietly, beyond the reach of unnecessary judgment, and beyond the influence of those who confuse curiosity with genuine care. Every time you choose to keep certain parts of your life private, you are not hiding who you are. You are honoring what deserves time to mature before it meets the world. The strongest people are rarely the loudest. They understand that every dream carries a fragile beginning. Before success becomes visible, It exists as hope. Before confidence becomes unshakable, it begins as uncertainty. When these delicate stages are exposed too soon, they often become vulnerable to doubt, criticism, and the expectations of others. A single careless remark can linger in the mind longer than 100 words of encouragement. That is why wisdom teaches restraint. Not because people are always malicious, but because not everyone has the vision to recognize what is growing inside you. Privacy also protects your emotional energy. Every conversation demands attention. Every explanation requires effort. Every attempt to justify your choices places a small weight upon your heart. Over time, these weights accumulate until you find yourself living according to the reactions of others rather than the convictions within yourself. There is freedom in no longer feeling obligated to explain every decision, every relationship, every goal, or every setback. The less energy you spend defending your path, the more strength you have to continue walking it. Many people mistake silence for weakness because they live in a world that rewards constant visibility. Yet silence often reveals remarkable discipline. It means refusing to seek validation from people who neither understand your purpose nor share your journey. It means trusting your own direction even when nobody applauds your progress. Real confidence does not need an audience to survive. It grows through quiet consistency, through daily choices that no one celebrates, and through commitments made long before success arrives. There is also protection in allowing your accomplishments to speak for themselves. Words create expectations, but actions create evidence. When people hear endless promises, they begin to judge intentions instead of results. When they quietly witness transformation, they cannot deny what stands before them. A peaceful life is often built by those who spend more time creating than announcing, more time growing than explaining, and more time listening than speaking. Your personal life is sacred because it contains the roots of your identity. Every relationship, every ambition, every fear, and every hope deserves thoughtful care rather than public display. The world will always have opinions, but those opinions lose their power when they are never invited into the deepest rooms of your heart. What remains protected often becomes what remains strong, because peace flourishes where unnecessary voices cannot reach, allowing your purpose to deepen with quiet confidence and your spirit to move without distraction. Trust is one of the most valuable gifts a person can offer, yet it is also one of the easiest things to misplace. Many people assume that kindness should always be met with openness, that a friendly smile is enough to earn access to the most intimate parts of their lives. But wisdom teaches a different lesson. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to know your deepest thoughts, your private struggles, your greatest ambitions, or the quiet dreams you carry within your heart. Some people arrive to support your journey, while others appear only for a season, driven by curiosity, convenience, or hidden motives. Learning the difference is one of the greatest forms of self-respect. Every relationship begins with possibility, not certainty. Time is the only force that reveals character. It uncovers whether someone celebrates your victories without envy, protects your confidence without hesitation, and remains present when life becomes difficult rather than convenient. Genuine trust is never built through quick conversations or shared laughter alone. It is established through consistent actions, quiet loyalty, and the willingness to stand beside someone when there is nothing to gain. Until those qualities reveal themselves, there is wisdom in allowing your personal life to remain protected. Many disappointments do not begin with betrayal. They begin with misplaced access. People often reveal too much too soon, believing vulnerability automatically creates connection. While honesty can strengthen meaningful relationships, unrestricted openness can expose parts of your life to individuals who have not earned the responsibility of carrying them. Once your story leaves your lips, you no longer control where it travels or how it is interpreted. A personal struggle shared in confidence may become casual conversation elsewhere. A dream spoken with excitement may be met with doubt instead of encouragement. Even your happiest moments can awaken comparison or resentment in those who secretly measure their worth against yours. There is strength in understanding that boundaries are not walls built from fear. They are doors opened with intention. Healthy boundaries allow trustworthy people to enter your life gradually, giving both character and consistency the opportunity to reveal themselves. This approach does not make you distant or unkind. Instead, it reflects maturity. It acknowledges that your peace deserves protection and that your inner world should not become public property simply because someone asks questions or appears interested. People who genuinely care for you will never demand immediate access to every chapter of your life. They understand that trust unfolds naturally. They respect silence without taking offense and appreciate honesty without expecting complete transparency from the beginning. They recognize that every meaningful relationship is built brick by brick through patience rather than pressure. Those who insist on knowing everything immediately often reveal more about their own intentions than about your willingness to trust. Your story carries weight because it is woven from your experiences, your lessons, your failures, and your victories. It deserves to be shared with people who recognize its value rather than treat it as entertainment or information. When you become selective about who receives your trust, you preserve not only your privacy, but also your emotional well-being. You create relationships founded on mutual respect instead of temporary curiosity, allowing your life to be surrounded by people who honor your confidence with integrity, protect your vulnerability with compassion, and prove through their unwavering actions that they have truly earned a place within the quiet spaces of your heart. There is a hidden price that many people pay without realizing it, and that price is oversharing. In a world that encourages constant updates, endless conversations, and public displays of every thought and emotion, it can seem natural to reveal every detail of your life. People are often taught that openness is the same as authenticity, but there is a profound difference between living honestly and giving everyone unrestricted access to your personal world. Every dream you announce, every struggle you expose, and every victory you broadcast becomes vulnerable to the interpretations, judgments, and intentions of others. Once your private life is placed in public hands, it no longer belongs entirely to you. Not every person who listens is listening with love. Some people hear your ambitions and quietly hope they never become reality. Others collect your fears because they recognize where you are most vulnerable. There are those who applaud your success with their words while secretly comparing it to their own lives. Envy rarely introduces itself honestly. It often hides behind compliments, casual questions, or friendly curiosity. That is why wisdom encourages discernment rather than constant disclosure. Protecting your personal life is not an act of suspicion. It is an act of preserving your emotional and spiritual well-being. Oversharing also invites unnecessary judgment. Every person views the world through the lens of their own experiences, beliefs, and limitations. When you reveal your choices, your relationships, or your goals, people naturally interpret them according to their own understanding. Some will misunderstand your intentions. Others will criticize decisions they were never asked to make. Many will offer opinions without carrying any responsibility for the consequences. If you allow every outside voice to shape your thinking, you may eventually lose confidence in the path that once felt clear. A dream can become clouded simply because too many people have spoken over it. There is another cost that is less obvious but equally significant. Oversharing can create dependence on external validation. When every accomplishment is immediately announced, every challenge publicly discussed, and every milestone measured by the reactions of others, your sense of fulfillment slowly becomes tied to approval instead of personal growth. You begin to wait for applause before believing your progress matters. You measure success by attention rather than by the quiet satisfaction of knowing you remained faithful to your purpose. This dependence weakens the inner confidence that should come from your own convictions. The most meaningful transformations often happen in silence. A seed does not become a mighty tree by announcing every stage of its growth. It develops beneath the surface, protected from harsh conditions until its roots are strong enough to support what is visible above the ground. Human growth follows the same pattern. Your healing, your discipline, your wisdom, and your purpose become stronger when they are allowed to mature without constant exposure. There is peace in knowing that not every chapter must be explained, defended, or displayed. Your life is a precious gift, and every detail does not require an audience. Some conversations deserve to remain between you and those who have consistently proven their loyalty. Some victories become sweeter when they are quietly lived rather than loudly proclaimed. By guarding your personal journey with wisdom and intention, you protect yourself from unnecessary envy, careless judgment, and the exhausting search for validation, leaving your heart free to grow with confidence, dignity, and lasting peace. There is a quiet authority that belongs to those who allow their lives to speak before their voices do. In a world where many people feel compelled to announce every intention, defend every decision, and explain every step they take, genuine strength often moves in the opposite direction. It is found in the person who rises each day with purpose, works diligently without seeking recognition, and allows consistent actions to reveal character. Words may capture attention for a moment, but actions leave impressions that endure long after conversations have ended. A promise can inspire hope, but a life lived with integrity creates trust that no speech alone can achieve. Many people mistake talking about success for making progress. They become so invested in describing their goals that they lose the energy required to pursue them. Every conversation about future plans can provide a temporary feeling of accomplishment, even when nothing has changed. Yet, true growth happens in the quiet hours, when no one is watching, when discipline replaces excitement and commitment continues long after motivation fades. The strongest foundations are rarely built in public. They are formed through repeated choices that seem ordinary, but eventually shape an extraordinary life. When your actions speak louder than your words, you free yourself from the burden of proving who you are. You no longer feel pressured to convince others of your worth, your intelligence, or your intentions. Instead, your character becomes visible through the way you treat people, the promises you keep, the respect you show, and the resilience you display during difficult seasons. These qualities cannot be manufactured through clever conversations. They reveal themselves naturally over time, becoming a testimony that requires no defense. There is also wisdom in allowing results to arrive before announcements. Too often, people invite unnecessary opinions by sharing plans that are still fragile. Every dream begins in a delicate stage where confidence is still growing. When exposed to doubt, criticism, or constant questioning, that confidence can weaken. Quiet perseverance protects your focus. It allows you to invest your energy in meaningful work instead of endless explanations. By the time others notice your progress, your foundation has already become strong enough to withstand their opinions. Acts possess a language that everyone understands. Kindness expressed through consistent care carries more weight than promises of compassion. Loyalty demonstrated during difficult times speaks louder than declarations of friendship. Humility shown through service leaves a deeper impression than repeated claims of greatness. Every meaningful quality becomes believable only when it is reflected in behavior. People may question your words, but they struggle to deny the evidence of a life lived with honesty and purpose. Choosing action over constant explanation also protects your inner peace. You spend less time seeking approval and more time pursuing what truly matters. You stop measuring your value by how many people recognize your efforts and begin measuring it by the integrity with which you live each day. This shift creates confidence that cannot be shaken by praise or criticism because it is rooted in personal conviction rather than public opinion. A life built on quiet consistency becomes a source of lasting influence, inspiring others not through impressive speeches or endless declarations, but through the undeniable example of steady character, faithful discipline, and unwavering commitment to living each day with authenticity and grace. There is a kind of freedom that cannot be purchased, borrowed, or given by another person. It is the freedom that comes from protecting your inner world with wisdom and intention. Many people spend their lives believing that complete openness is the path to connection. Yet they often discover that constant exposure leaves them emotionally exhausted rather than deeply understood. When every thought is spoken, every feeling is explained, and every private moment is shared, there is little space left for the soul to rest. Sacred boundaries are not barriers that keep love away. They are quiet acts of self-respect that preserve the peace, dignity, and emotional balance every person deserves. A boundary is not an expression of fear. It is an expression of value. It communicates that your heart, your dreams, your relationships, and your personal journey are precious enough to be handled with care. Just as a gardener places a fence around a young tree to protect it while it grows, wise people place thoughtful boundaries around the most meaningful parts of their lives. They understand that not everyone who enters their path should have unrestricted access to their emotions, their struggles, or their future plans. Some people are meant to walk beside you, while others are simply passing through your story. Without healthy boundaries, life can become filled with unnecessary noise. Opinions begin to replace inner wisdom. Expectations from others start shaping decisions that should come from personal conviction. Instead of listening to the quiet voice of your own purpose, you find yourself responding to criticism, defending choices, and seeking approval from people who neither understand your journey nor share its responsibilities. Over time, this constant pressure can steal the joy that once accompanied your dreams. What began as a meaningful path slowly becomes a performance designed to satisfy the expectations of others. Sacred boundaries create room for genuine peace. They allow you to spend less time explaining your life and more time living it. They teach you that silence is not emptiness, but protection. There is wisdom in choosing carefully who receives your trust, who hears your plans, and who witnesses your vulnerabilities. The people who truly belong in your life will never resent healthy boundaries. Instead, they will respect them because they understand that authentic relationships are built on mutual honor rather than unlimited access. Real love never demands entry into every hidden corner of your heart before trust has been established. Living with boundaries also strengthens your sense of identity. You begin to recognize that your worth does not depend on being constantly available, constantly understood, or constantly visible. Your value remains unchanged, whether the world applauds your journey or knows nothing about it. This realization brings remarkable confidence because your peace is no longer controlled by public opinion. You become anchored in your own values, guided by your own purpose, and strengthened by your own quiet convictions. As life unfolds, you discover that the most fulfilling moments are often the ones protected from unnecessary attention. Your deepest healing happens in quiet reflection. Your strongest relationships grow through trust instead of performance. Your greatest accomplishments become more meaningful because they were nurtured with patience rather than announced for approval. Sacred boundaries do not isolate you from the world. They help you engage with it from a place of wisdom, emotional strength, and lasting peace, allowing your spirit to flourish in an atmosphere where respect, purpose, and quiet confidence remain carefully protected.